Good morning, everybody. I'm Mark Kramer. I'm the Senior Lecturer of Entrepreneurship at University, and today starts a six-part class that I'm giving for high school students on how to start a business. And the first class we're giving today is something that I've used quite often when I'm speaking to groups of high school students to get them interested in starting their own venture, which is how to start a business for 2.5 million dong or less. So today we're going to talk about that. And after today, I want you to think about what you would like to start, and we're going to take you through each part about how to evaluate your idea and get it off the ground. So let me pull up my presentation now. So just to give you some background on me, for some of you who do not know more about me, is that I taught at the Wharton School of Business, which is the best business school probably in the world in the United States. I have myself have done over 29 startups, and I've started two ventures since I've been in Vietnam. One's called the Business Plan Factory, where you write in one sentence and you get an entire business plan or information on the idea that you'd like to start. I've raised over $3.2 billion in American dollars in different ventures that I've started. I started the world's first formally organized investor angel network. Angels are the investors, are individuals who invest in startup companies. And back in 1990, that did not exist for entrepreneurs to be able to find individual investors. So I created the first formally organized one back in 1990. I'm a former Inc. Entrepreneur of the Year. I've written 6 books. And as I mentioned, I learned and launched an AI venture called Business Plan Factory. And I've also have a second venture that I'm starting. I also have a podcast called Asian Founders and Funders, which I will send you all the link. I think that you'll greatly enjoy watching these interviews with different entrepreneurs, most all of them in Vietnam. And it has won 3 international awards. And I also have another podcast called The Best Business Minds that's now actually listened to in 77 countries and has won 6 awards. So, what can you start for 2.5 million dong? Before you even consider what you can start for 2.5 million dong, you have to you have to be able to identify a problem that needs solving. And that's the first step in figuring out what new business could you start. And some of you have your own ideas already about what you would like to start. I've yesterday talked to a group of high school students at University, our open day, and some of them wanted to start game companies. Some of them wanted to do baking businesses. One wanted to do a dog walking service. One wanted to do an English tutoring business. So I know you all have some different ideas. And at University, we're even considering starting a national competition, a national business plan competition, because I think entrepreneurship is critical to the future success of Vietnam, and that all of you who are listening are interested in entrepreneurship. And it's important because 70% of our college graduates end up leaving Vietnam to work in other countries. And that means that we're losing a lot of very talented people. So people coming up with entrepreneurial ideas, getting them started, is going to keep those people here and create more wealth for the country. So one of the things that you want to look at is there an easily identifiable market for what I'm doing? That's very crucial in order to go and build a sustainable business. And mind you, when you all are looking at starting a business, it'd be great if you could start one that made millions of dollars, but we're just taking the baby step here and learning how to go and start a business that could make you some side money, but expose you to all facets of business. One of the things you want to know is the customer acquisition cost low? What does customer acquisition cost mean? Well, what it means is that how much does it cost you to get someone to buy your product or service? And if it costs a lot of money to go and do, then it's probably not feasible. So you're looking for customer acquisition costs that only rely on you using free social media, putting up flyers in places, things like that that won't cost you a lot of money. If you were in fact trying to go and sell a $25,000 product, then you're going to have to do a lot of advertising for it on Google and other sites, magazines, maybe radio, maybe TV, in order to get people to know about your product and in order to be able to sell it. So your customer acquisition cost is very expensive. And if you're looking for a market that's outside of your area where you can get to people easily, then that costs a lot of money as well. So if you had created a book and you wanted to sell that book in different countries, or you're a singer and you create your own music, beyond using social media, you might have to go and advertise in other places in order to raise that visibility. So that could become very expensive. You want something that has high growth potential. We all know that AI is so popular now that if you come up with the right idea in AI, that it can grow fast and exponentially. We know that if in fact you come up with a service that's in great need, that people will immediately contact you for that. So in my building back in Philadelphia, where I'm from, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, we have 3 towers and there are 500 units. And 70% of the units, 350 of them, have dogs. And out of the 350 units that have dogs, 90% of the owners work during the day, have no one to take care of the dog. So somebody starting a dog walking business that charges $20 each time they walk the dog, they make really good money doing it, especially when you have 350 units. In fact, they end up actually hiring people and creating jobs because there's no way they could work all 350 dogs during the course of the day, twice a day, which is usually what the dog owner wants. You want to have net profit margins of 20%. What does that mean, net profit of 20%? Well, what we mean there is at the end of the day, after you paid all your expenses, including yourself, you still have 20% of the money left over. So that means if you had to rent a place, you're paying your electricity, your phone, other people to work for you, whatever the product costs to make, whatever the service costs to deliver, the website that you have, everything, all of your expenses, you would like to have a 20% margin at the end of the day so you can put money back into the business, you can build up a cushion. So you want to have that 20%. Then there's regulatory and legal considerations. What's regulatory and legal? That means the government. That could mean the city. It could mean the province you live in. It means the federal government, the national government here. So you have to find out, is what you're going to do legal? And if it is legal, do you need any kind of certification? So if you're going to open up a restaurant, the government needs to know, you need to sign up with the government and they need to inspect your restaurant and you need to get a certificate in order to open that restaurant. So you need to be able to go and have that. If in fact you were going to decide you were going to be in the vitamin business, you have to find out what vitamins can you offer? Where do they have to come from? How do you have to have it labeled? Is it legal to bring in vitamins developed in another country into Vietnam? Because every country has its own rules. If you were going to export your vitamins because you're in your family business and you decided to help mom and dad out, you'd have to find out what are the rules in each country you want to export to, and if it's legal to even do it. And then at the end of the day, you want to find out, does my business bring in enough money to financially support me? So you're not worried about making enough money that you have to take care of yourself, but you want to know, can I make more money in my own business than I can working for somebody else? Because if I'm not going to make more money working for myself than someone else, then what's the benefit? Maybe the benefit you're doing it is so you can learn more about business. But if money is important to you and you weigh starting your own business compared to working for someone else, then it might not make sense to start it. I've had entrepreneurs I've worked with where their side job didn't make as much as their regular job. And so either they did it because they like doing it as a hobby, or they ended up deciding, you know what, I need the money more than I need this side gig. So they decide not to do it. Or they decide to do it because they think over time that side business will make more money than theirs. So there's a lot to consider. What are the ingredients to being an entrepreneur? Well, one of the ingredients is being resilient because things never go quite the way you hope. Um, there are lots of ups and downs, especially in the beginning. There's lots of downs because it's hard to get customers. No matter what business that you're in, it's never easy to get customers. And sometimes you get lucky and you think it's taken off because you got a few customers in the beginning, but then it tapers off. And you have to realize that there are going to be days where things went beautifully, and there are days, sometimes weeks, where it doesn't. And you have to be able to overcome them. You can't get emotionally too high, and you have to stay stable every day. You have to keep your mental, your mind free and clear, and just relax. Just enjoy the experience of doing it. And don't get overly emotional when things aren't working out right, because you're all smart who are listening to this. You wouldn't be tuning in right now if you didn't want to be entrepreneurs, and you can handle it. So all you have to do is realize that things are not always going to go the way you want them to, but you'll figure it out. And if you can't figure it out, you have friends who will help you figure it out. You'll have professors like me who will also help you figure it out. Perseverance is very important because you have to realize that things take way longer than you expect. All of us would like to have things done quickly, but you have to persevere. And some things change. You know, you start a business and all of a sudden you find out three other people have started the same business, but they might not be um, as excited about it, and they might be doing it because they think they can make it quick money right away. But if you stick with it, you can go a long way. A entrepreneur that I know in Philadelphia, her name is Yasmin Mustafa, and she started a business called Roar for Good. And Roar for Good was a button for young women to wear that if they feel that their lives were threatened or they were physically in trouble, they could push this button and people would know exactly where they are, including the police, and could come to them and rescue them. Well, she sold that button and a lot of fathers bought it, but the daughters didn't like the look of it and they wouldn't wear it. So that market kind of dried up for her. So then she tried a market for hotels, because a lot of times hotel maids get attacked by the people who are the men who stay in these hotels. And it would be great if they had a button. So she did it, and she got 10 hotels to use this button and was going great. But then the pandemic hit and all the hotels closed up. Now, what was she going to do? Then she realized that there are people who are in dangerous jobs who could use this button, like psychologists and psychiatrists and policemen and firemen and others. And so she sold that button to them. Now that business is so taken off that she has 50 employees and raised 15 million USD dollars to grow the business. And how long did that take? From the time she came up with the idea until the time she finally found a way to really make it work and make her money, 10 years. 10 years. So you have to have patience. You have to be adaptable because situations change. One of the biggest changes that we found recently is if you were doing consulting work now, because of ChatGPT and other AI like MindPal, which is developed by two students at vinuniversity, now a lot of consulting work can be done using ChatGPT, and you don't have to hire an outsider to do this work. So now consulting companies, and I've had freshmen who want to go into consulting, and I say to them, Now you really have to learn how to use chat in a strategic way because companies are not hiring consultants thinking that they can just do the work themselves and save themselves the money. So now consultants have to adapt to a new situation. Creativity is important because we're not talking about creativity and coming up with new ideas. We're talking about creativity in terms of how do you go and figure out problems and how do you go and address problems and come up with a creative solution. So Elon Musk there was a book written on Elon Musk by a guy named Walter Isaacson. And in the book, Elon Musk talks about how he had all the parts on the Tesla made internally because it was so costly to outsource all the parts that if they could do it better and cheaper, then they could reduce the price and increase the profit margin for the Tesla, and that's what they did. And so now all the parts are made by Tesla themselves. Why do you think it's important to be an active listener? Why do you think that's important? So, anybody who would like to tell me why it's important to be an active listener? Anybody have an idea? You can raise your hand. Okay, Ethan, please tell me why it's good, and you can unmute your mic.
I believe that you're able to uh, ideas from a lot of people. So if you were to be an active listener, you're able to maybe improve your business based on the customer's needs.
So your thought on active listening is, hey, listen to what customers are saying. Don't assume you know it. Listen to them, and you'll come up with ideas that will help the customer and help you start a business. Correct? Ethan?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have an idea for why active listening is good? Easy to catch market trends. That's what someone wrote, and you're more than welcome to put it on chat, and I will read it out to people. I see a hand raised here. Tom? Yep.
Well, I think active listening is good because when you have a business, you also need to listen to your consumers' ideas or what their opinion is about on the product to make it better.
I agree with you totally. So, and we do that at vinuniversity. My students said to me in a survey, we don't like being called on in class if we didn't raise our hand. And so we came up with a different solution. Instead of them raising their hand, they get a QR code and they can write in their thoughts because some people are shy. But what we try to teach at vinuniversity is that when you go to work for a business, the owner is hiring you not only for your skills, but for your brain. And they want to hear what you have to say. So we try to prepare you in order to not be afraid to share your opinions. But we listen to them. They felt embarrassed if they're called on, they didn't raise their hand. So thank you so much for your comment. Anyone else have a comment on this? I think you guys nailed it. I think you had a real good understanding of it. So let's get back to our discussion here. And let me see if you can see. Can you see the presentation? Great. You can all see it, I'm assuming. So other things that you have to work on is communication skills, and communication means both verbal and writing and being able to be understood. And one of the most important things I found as an entrepreneur that you have to be is receptive to other people's ideas. You are hopefully going to surround yourself with people as smart, if not smarter than you. I used to tell people when I hired them that if somebody didn't try to hire you away from me in 1 to 2 years, then I made a mistake. If you didn't get put on the list of new ideas, and I don't mean the ideas had to be an idea for a new product or service, it could be a new idea for a different way of doing it. So years ago, in one of the businesses I ran, the receptionist, the woman that when you walk into the office, she's the first person you see, or he is the first person you see. They came up with an idea that we should sell season tickets to this event I created called Titans of Technology. And Titans of Technology had 4 major CEOs that came into Philadelphia and would speak, famous CEOs. And she said, rather than us advertise this event every time it occurs, let's just offer up season tickets, meaning that they could buy tickets to all 4 events before the events took place. And that was the most brilliant idea, because when we put it out there and we told people who was speaking, all of the tickets were sold out in the first 3 weeks. So we never had to worry about marketing it, and we got all the money in advance. And it was so smart that other organizations in Philadelphia who had been doing it the same way, I guess for 75 years, all of a sudden they followed our lead, and they were offering season tickets by showing who all of the people were that were coming to Philadelphia to go and speak to their organizations. And the last part of this is you got to be disciplined. And what I mean by discipline is that you can't decide, I'm working 4 hours today, 2 hours the other day. I'll get this. Yeah, I was supposed to work on this today, working on my website, but I'll work on it tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes and you don't work on it. You have to be disciplined and set hours for yourself and focus on your task. So me, I'm very disciplined. Every day of the week, all 7 days, I get up at 5:30 a.m. I read for 45 minutes. I ride my bike, work out for an hour, and then I get into my work and I make a list of things that I want to do for the day, and I knock them off my list. And I typically, and there's no expectation of you to do this, but I typically am working 12 to 14 hours a day. And that's because I really enjoy doing it. And there's so many things that I'm working on, like starting this particular program. But if you went and saw my Wikipedia page, you'll see all these different things I've done. I am not smarter than you. Probably a lot of you are smarter than me. But what I am, and what most really successful entrepreneurs are, is discipline. And being a successful entrepreneur doesn't mean being Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Mr. Vong, or the lady who runs VietJet Airlines. What it means is that you are giving your best effort every day, and that you're getting things done every day, that you're organized, and that you don't put things off, and you try things. Lots of people talk about doing, but they don't do it. I have a friend who has talked for 20 years about writing the same book. In that same 20 years, I've written 6 books and he's written none. He's a very smart guy, but he doesn't have the discipline to go get things done. And he's never started anything. He works as a consultant, talks about ideas, but he doesn't do them. You are a winner just by trying. And you'll find that over time, you'll have some successes, you'll have some failures, but you'll have way more successes because you got off the couch and you did it. And no matter what anybody says, even if the business failed, you failed because it just wasn't meant to be. You didn't fail because you didn't give the effort. If you start the business and don't stick with it, and you don't persevere, and you don't try to do everything you do, then you failed. But if you've given your best effort, and that's all I ever care about in class is best effort. Not everybody is an A student, but if they give their best effort, there's no way that they can get less than a B in my class. All I look for the most is effort, because everybody has different levels of skill and ability. But if I see someone who has great ability and they're not working hard, I don't want to work with them. I don't want to hire them. I'm not going to give them a good grade. So here are 20 ideas that you can start for $100 or less. In this case, it's 2.5 million down. So you can do freelance services. What does that mean? You can go and start a business that as like a social media consultant, because you all know more about social media than I'll ever know. I have an 18-year-old who is helping me with social media for my podcast, Asian Founders and Funders. She wrote a plan. She talked me through what it was going to be, and I'm going to put up $100 a month for her to go and help me with social media. $100 a month. So I'm giving her 2.5 million dong a month for her to help me with social media. And I'm not her only client. There is online tutoring that you can go and do. There was a girl in a high school in Philadelphia who was from Korea, and she was an exchange student, and she knows American kids were having a hard time with math. And so she got 5 kids from Korea to help her be math tutors. Before long, she had 30 full-time high school students working after school, teaching math to American kids, and she was making enough money to put herself through college. There are lots of great opportunities here that you can go and do. And here's another one, the mobile car wash business. One of my freshmen at Drexel University in Philadelphia, when he was a senior in high school, he decided that he wanted to wash people's cars to make money. And he thought, what better place to go than to corporate parks where all these office buildings are, and people are so busy during the day working that they don't have time to wash their own cars. So we asked the general manager of the facility if they could put a flyer out and offer as a service to go and wash people's cars. And he and a buddy bought 2 used mobile car washing equipment and were in the parking lot to wash people's cars. Well, people found out about this, and they were so busy that they had to hire 5 other guys to go and help them wash all the cars. And the general manager of that facility told the general managers of the other facilities in the area about this cool car washing service and how happy his tenants were about this car washing service. So they asked this kid, if he could do it for them. So before long, he had 3 different locations, and he had about 20 people helping him with this washing cars. At the end of the summer, he was getting ready to go to Drexel, and somebody came up and said, would you be willing to sell me your business? And he thought the guy would buy the business just for the equipment that he owned. He thought maybe he could get $1,000 for this equipment because now it's a bit more used than before. And he said, how much are you offering me? And the guy said, 100,000 in American dollars. And this kid was blown away. He was shocked, didn't even know what to say. All he could say, and it was smart of him, and that may explain why he's a partner at Morgan Stanley, one of the biggest investment banks in the world. He said, let me think about it. So he told his dad what happened. The dad was shocked, and dad said, tell him that's not enough and see what happens. So he told him, he goes, I think I can do better. The guy goes, my final offer is, and I'll write you a check right now, $125,000. So the kid said, okay. He took it. He put his brother through college. He got a full scholarship for baseball, but he put his younger brother through college and had spending money. So all from starting a mobile car wash, and he bought the used equipment for about $150 a piece. But his return obviously was great. He and his partner actually each made $50,000 during that summer because they were washing so many cars, and they were washing them 7 days a week. People were even coming to the facility when it was closed to have their car washed and detailed by these guys. So it was a phenomenal business for him. The first business I ever started was selling bumper stickers. I called it Mark Kramer, Kramer Communications, build your business with bumper stickers. Because bumper stickers in the United States are big because people are driving all the time. You're looking at the bumper, you're reading it, and it tells you about restaurants you should go to, new products, whatever that is. And the margins are very fat on bumper stickers. That means the price that you're paying to make the bumper sticker, the design, and the price to manufacture it, and what you're selling it for. So imagine that it would be that it cost 2,500 dung to make one bumper sticker, but you're selling for 25,000 dung. And so the margins are quite great. So I went out and I went to 37 businesses and they all turned me down. Now, did I quit and say, well, that's just not going to work out? Or did I make changes? And what I found was that when I talked to businesses, they asked me, well, do you offer anything else? Like, what else would you want? Well, I consider buying baseball caps and t-shirts and other things. So I went to a company that does specialty items and I worked out a deal with them that I could represent them. And I started selling that. But ironically, the first 6 customers that I went to wanted bumper stickers. Who would have guessed? But I also ended up selling t-shirts and hats and mugs and everything else. And it made really good money for me. And then I switched over to consulting and I started doing consulting on writing PR press releases for people, writing content for people for speeches and other things. And then over time, I was able to write content for websites. So this is just a sampling of what I was doing. So what do you need to know to start your own business? So what do you guys think you need to know to start your own business? Anybody raise your hand? And I'm putting it in gallery form. Who has an idea what you think you need to do to start your own business? Ethlyn, did I
So
pronounce your name correctly?
yeah, it's Evelyn. So I think there are like 4 factors that you should put into your consideration when you think about like establish a business, which are the external and internal factors. For the external factors, I think you need to know about the um like the opportunities and threats. And for the internal, you need to know about your strengths and also your weaknesses.
So that's true too. And what kind of expenses do you think you're going to have to think about if you're starting a business?
Can you elaborate more on your question? Like, I didn't get it yet.
So, and I have this other young man who has his hand raised as well. But let's say whatever business you're thinking about starting, what are some of the things that you're going to have to spend money on? So this young gentleman, I don't see your name here, but go ahead. You have your hand raised.
Yes, so I think you would need to spend it on like maybe advertising it. Like
Advertising, that's true. And maybe you have to spend money, or maybe it's just spending your time advertising it because you
yeah,
can do free social media, right? You can create a Facebook page for free. You can create a LinkedIn page for free. You can even create a website for free. What other things do you think you need to spend money on?
maybe if your business is like going well, then you also have to spend money on employees.
Eventually you might have to spend money on employees, but right now we're just worried about how do we, what do we need to spend to get it off the ground, just to get it started?
Like basic
Anybody?
equipment.
Basic equipment. So what kind of what does every business need?
Um,
I guess you can see almost every business need, because there are people, street vendors, right, that they might not have a laptop. So, but most businesses, you need a laptop because you're using it for ordering, running your website, different things. What other things do you think you need to spend money on? And you said employees, that's correct. What else? Someone here wrote legal. That's right. You probably need to get a lawyer to do it. You might need to spend money on research and development. Someone else, Ethan has written down here, money on manufacturing your product. I have a student at vinuniversity who's thinking about creating her own line of jeans. And her family has a jeans making company, but she feels like she can make way more money if they create their own brand, which I believe to be true. Anything else that you think you need? And I'm glad when you all write them down because that's great and I'm glad to share them with people. But if you raise your hand, I can call on you. And there's no wrong answers here. There's never, when you take my class at University, there's never a wrong answer. I might say that you might not be totally right, but most cases, because you're all smart people, there's a part of what you say is right. And in some cases, you're just absolutely correct, as some of you have been already today. So let's go back to it and I'll show you some of the things that you have to consider when you're launching your business. Well, you have to identify your business idea when you're starting the low cost, when you're starting your business, you have to identify idea because the idea is going to drive what it's going to cost you to go and start this business. And you have to validate what your idea is going to be when you're doing it. So you have to say to yourself, is this idea doable? And could I afford to actually launch this idea? And then you're going to go and create a budget and you're going to put together a Excel spreadsheet. And I think all of you know how to put Excel spreadsheets together because you're already doing it in school. And so it's important to see what all the costs are going to be. Now, you'd be surprised to know this, but many adults don't know how to create these budgets. I do them all the time for clients, and so many of them don't really know how to figure out what things are going to cost them even in their own personal lives. I do a budget for my day-to-day living. I have my daughters do budgets for that, especially my younger daughter. And so they actually see where all the money is going and seeing what they might have missed and what costs they're going to be. And then you have to figure out how do you leverage free resources like free software and online courses and going on to networking events and using social media platforms and their free website builders. And then you want to become small, start small. I could have advertised this class to the entire country because we have a very big email list. But I decided to work with one of the premier high schools in the country, True North, to launch this class and beta test it so I can see after the 6 sessions, has this been good for the students? What did they learn? What changes do I need to make? And so I'm going to do that over the course of the 6 weeks. And then when I launch it again, we'll launch it to a wider audience. But if I started big and I made mistakes, there's no way to put that genie back into the bottle again. It's already out there. So having a small group to test your idea is definitely a way to go. And then you want to bootstrap this by using your own money and then reinvesting the profits in. So if you're in a dog walking service and you want to go and maybe sell pet supplies to your owners because you have 100 owners and maybe now you want to sell them food and blankets and other things, maybe that's a way that you're going to go and do. You want to save money as much as you can because such as designing your own logo because there are services out there that can help you design these things on your own or very little cost. Sometimes you're going to barter or trade services. So again, using the dog walking example, and you find an owner who could develop your website for you, you might trade your services for an equal amount of money it would cost for them to do the website for you. Or you find out that you have a client that does public relations and you offer your service to them in exchange for them providing you their particular service. And then you got to focus on sales and marketing. You're going to have to invest time initially into your sales and marketing, but over time, you're probably going to maybe hire other people to help you or utilize other services and pay to be on their services because there are services that will market you out there to help you get more clients and you might be spending money with them. There are online services where you hire a salesperson and they might be based in another country and they're writing to people and making calls on your behalf. And as I said, you have to stay flexible and adaptable over time because the market conditions are constantly changing. So here is some consulting opportunities that you can do. One is bookkeeping. Now you're wondering, my gosh, I'm only in 9th grade or 10th grade. How could I do bookkeeping? Well, if you can easily learn by learning how to use the software, or you can easily learn by putting just the numbers in. So when the business owner gets expenses, they get an invoice, a piece of paper saying what they own. And if they put it all into an envelope or a box, then you take those receipts out and you mark the date, the name of the organization, and how much you owe. And you do that. Or if you're charging people for the service, all you do is put who you charge, the date you did the service, and how much it cost. Anybody can do that. I knew kids when I was in high school who were good at math that did the bookkeeping for their parents. And then their parents' friends who own businesses said, oh my gosh, who does your bookkeeping? Oh, my son does. You're kidding. He's only in high school. Yeah, but he's really good at it. And some of them got 20, 30 different customers that they were doing bookkeeping for. A few of them ended up going to college to get accounting degrees because they loved doing it. And they knew it's an ongoing stream of money. You can do content writing for websites, especially if I'm targeting 18 to 35-year-olds. Who's better at writing content than you over me, a 63-year-old? You can do English tutoring. You know more about social media. You can do research because now you can use AI if the person doesn't have the time to do the research themselves. If you know how to play the guitar or any instrument, the piano, you can give music lessons. You can develop websites. I have somebody now who develops websites for me who's only a freshman in college. And you can help people with travel by going online and doing all the research and telling them, here's all the things you need to know for the travel that you'd like to do. So here's there can be almost no cost to starting what you want to do. You can find free websites, just like initial website to have something. But I find in Asia that a lot of businesses don't have websites, especially business to consumer, meaning you're selling to individuals, not business to business, selling to other businesses, and that you can just use Facebook. Many, many businesses just use Facebook, and that's free to go and do. You can go and find folks who will do the hosting for you if, in fact, you allow them to advertise on your Facebook page or your website. And business cards. There are folks who want you to use their business cards, and they provide initial cards out there for you get 500 free cards because they're figuring when you reorder, you'll already have all your information in with them, and then they allow you to reorder the cards. Same, you already have a cell phone, so you don't have to make that investment in the cell phone. Everybody has one. Laptop, more than likely you have a laptop to do things, and social media is free. How do you test an idea? Let's say that you have this new idea. How do you think you would go about testing the idea? Could you all, obviously you all heard me because someone wrote here, it's quiet here. Are you done? I'll be leaving in 1 minute. Okay, clear you all were hearing me, but maybe something with that person. Okay, start with a small audience. That's true. You have your hand raised right there. Lynn, who had her hand raised.
So I think you may want to ask your friends if they would actually want to spend their money on your products.
That's right. The only way that an idea is a good idea is if somebody values it enough that they want to spend money on it. If they don't want to spend money on it, then they don't value it. I had that happen to me before. I started an insurance product that raised a lot of money, and we marketed to 3 states, small businesses to just get it started. And we found nobody wanted that product because they didn't believe they needed that product. And since we ended up spending $2 million to find out that nobody wanted this product. In surveys, all the research we did, it looked like it was going to be a home run. But the reality was that we asked the wrong question. In our survey, we asked them, are they worried about cybersecurity and hackers taking things? And they go, yes. But we didn't ask them, are you worried about a hacker breaking into your bank account and stealing your money, which is what our insurance was based on. And when we did a second survey about 8 months later, when we weren't getting sales, we found that 90% of the people didn't think that their bank accounts could get hacked. And even if it did, they were unaware that if their bank account got hacked, the bank wasn't liable for their loss. So here we put something together. And if we had asked the right question, we would have found out that people weren't willing to spend the money. We could have stopped it right away. So great answer on your part. Anybody else? What else do we have to know before we launch an idea? Yes, go ahead. Katie?
I think we can ask an expert like you, or like they have experience in the profession.
So you could ask experts and ask them what they think. And I did that for Funding Organizer. It's a common app for commercial bank loans. And I asked for that as well. And the reason I was already working with bank loan officers about working with them on behalf of my clients who were trying to get bank loans. And it was taking forever. It took 4 to 8 weeks for them to collect all the information. I said, what if I can create a common application? Would you guys find that to be valuable? And they said, yes, oh, that'd be great. So 10 different bank loan officers of 10 different banks work with me on creating an online application that businesses would fill out to try to get a loan from the bank, meaning the bank would give them money for their business. And when we launched it, nobody would use it. And when I contacted banks about using it, their bosses said, I'm not interested. I'd rather do it the old way. And what I should have done was go to their bosses and said, hey, your loan officers told me they could use this. Would you be willing to beta test and spend money on this? And if they said no, then I wouldn't have offered that business. So you learn a lot of lessons. Even I did that business when I was 60. You would think I would know better than to launch something without talking to the people who would actually write the check. So by talking to people with experience, you learn things all the time. Is there an unsatisfied demand for that idea? Absolutely. You ask people, but is there an unsatisfied demand for the idea that they're willing to pay for? There are lots of problems that people are not willing to pay for, and other things you might look at are opportunities. So it doesn't mean that somebody wants to have a problem solved. Like an opportunity would be, does anybody want pretzels from the United States? And I'm thinking we should import pretzels because I love pretzels, and I'm thinking Vietnamese might like them as well. Nobody is waking up in Vietnam saying, oh my God, I wish somebody would sell us pretzels. But we know you love snack foods, and we know you like salty and savory, favorite word that people use in Vietnam, savory. What if I sold those pretzels here? So that would be an opportunity, and I would see by buying bags, having people taste them, and see if they wanted to reorder them. If not, well, then I know my answer. Okay, your comparison. If there's a market is full of suppliers, then the chance of entry is harder. Yes, you're right. And which brings me to which shocks me. In Ocean Park, where I live, every 5 feet, literally, like every, let's say, 10-second walk, there's a coffee shop. And every 10-second walk, there's somebody selling Vietnamese food. Why are there so many of these people selling this? And when you walk by these coffee shops, out of 30 coffee shops in Ocean Park, maybe 5 of them have a steady stream of customers. The rest, including Starbucks, are empty. So if there's too much competition, there are people who are going to survive it, but most are not going to go and survive it. But why is competition a good thing to have? Does anybody know why competition is good? One time when I started this insurance venture I started, the chairman of this public company, big company in the US, he said, Mark, what is your biggest concern? And I said, lack of competition. And he goes, lack of competition? Why would we want competition? Why do you think competition is important? By the way, someone
think-
mentioned you have to do some market research to see if your business can thrive. So that's absolutely true. So someone has raised their hand here. Go ahead.
So I think that competition is good because first, since there's a lot of competition, a lot of companies will want to kind of like innovate and improve their products so that it stands out from the rest. So basically, it leads to more innovation, I guess. And also maybe when businesses compete, they have to have something that's different, such as like a better price. So I think it could benefit consumers.
Now, maybe you should be the one teaching in college. Are you like are you 40 years old but pretending to be a high school kid? That's
Oh.
his answer is a right answer, but that's not the answer I'm looking for. But that is absolutely correct. Everything you said is correct. The other person who has raised their hand that's showing me a picture of something, tell me what you think. And can I see you? So there's another person raising their hand, and I see the picture, but I don't see or hear them.
Oh, yeah. I have a little trouble with my camera, so I just cannot turn it on. But I think the more competition it is in the market, like the less resources and time you need to put into like raise awareness about your products.
You kids are just too smart. That's exactly the answer I was looking for. His answer was absolutely right as well. But can you imagine this? That when I said this, the chairman of that company said I was a moron and had no idea, but you are, whatever grade you're in, figured it out. And he turned out to be a terrible chairman that they ended up firing anyway a few years later. So you clearly could have been running that company. Excellent. Very, very well done. Very impressed. So let's go back. How do you test an idea? So there are different ways you can test your idea. One is you have to define your idea, and then you have to identify the numbers to confirm that this idea has potential. So if you said that you were going to go and sell used bicycles, you would want to know what percentage of people ride bicycles. And you can go type that into MindPal or ChatGPT, and you could find out what percentage of people ride bicycles in Vietnam, or what percentage of people ride bicycles in Hanoi, and what percentage of people ride bicycles age 18 to 35. And then you can create a prototype or MVP, which means you could go and create a prototype of your website, a beginner website to see who's interested. You could go and if you were, let's say that you were wanted to sell plants, you could put together some beginning plants, put pictures of them, and show people how you're able to design plants that could be put in offices or whatever. And then you can do some testing. So you can put a survey out there and saying, hey, I'm thinking about selling pretzels. Who would be interested in, if you are interested in buying pretzels from me, give me your name and email address, and I'll let you know when I'm selling them. So you might get over 1,000 people through friends, family, and everybody sending out your survey. And now you find out, oh, wow, 200 people want to be on the list to buy pretzels, or 5 people wanted to buy pretzels. So we know that's not going to work. So you can do interviews, you can do online testing, you can create landing pages, and then you set up your experiment and you see if your idea is worthy. When we did Business Plan Factory, we put out an email to people, and then I posted on 53 different entrepreneurial user groups, and we got 67 entrepreneurs who paid to use it. But we basically found out was that we were hitting 11 million people, and people really didn't want that. So we have to think about how we could repurpose what we've done and use it in a different way. And you can gather feedback and then analyze the results and decide, does it make sense to do what I'm doing? Should I pivot and do something else related to it? There was a guy in the United States that was trying to sell kitty litter. He created his own kind of kitty litter, and nobody was buying this kitty litter. And one day, his wash machine broke and it was flooding his kitchen. And so he quickly went and took his kitty litter and threw it on the floor to block the water. And he went and bought a water vac to vacuum the water up. When he came home, all the water was gone and couldn't believe it. The kitty litter soaked up all the water. And then he realized, what if I changed the purpose of my kitty litter? And he called it crap in a sock. And he sold it in hardware stores. And people were buying it in areas that got flooded easily. And people were buying it in their home just to keep it in case they had a spill, and just dropped it on there and it soaked it all up. That guy, 25 years later, sold that business for $250 million US, and he owned 100% of the business. Here I gave you my story about commercial deposit insurance agency, where we thought we came up with a great idea, had lots of support, but people just didn't buy it. So what's the most important test? You already told me what the most important test is, and I've said it often and often, and that is somebody willing to pay for whatever you're offering? If they're not, and not enough people willing to pay, so it can be self-supporting, then it doesn't make sense. And you could have a business that only has 3 clients if the 3 clients pay a lot of money. But if in most businesses, you really need 10, 15 ongoing clients to pay in consulting enough money that you can make a living. But if you're selling small things like ice cream cones, then you need a high volume of people to buy it, or it doesn't make sense. A cousin of mine started a water ice business in Arizona. It's a hot area. They thought people would like it, and nobody bought their water ice. It wasn't a thing that, for whatever reason, Arizonians liked. And so my cousin spent a lot of money thinking it was going to be a big hit. Instead of starting small and just having a cart and going to areas to test it, he spent over $100,000 on building a small manufacturing plant to make it, that never took off. Again, most important thing is beta testing and seeing if people will purchase it. And here was my 15-minute business plan idea that has not really taken off. So we have to think about a different way of doing it. And my other big idea was prompt payment. And we raised $3.2 billion for that. And I sold 49% of it to another company. And over time that took off, but it was a hard idea to sell in the beginning because getting companies willing to go and market this out to their customer. Prompt payment was, if you had an invoice and you didn't, if you were a company with lots of vendors and you didn't want to pay them right away, you would tell them, we have a partner named Prompt Payment, and Prompt Payment would would buy all the invoices and give all the people back 97% of their money and keep 3% for itself. 3% on $100,000, and you keep turning that over, turns out to be a lot of money. So where can you find funding if you were going to go and launch your business? Well, for you guys, it's friends and family, especially your family, that can help you, or you have a small job that you made enough money to do it. But there are angel investors, individuals who might invest if you have a great idea. And there's a high school student who just joined VinUni, and she started a clothes washing business. She now has 3 full-time hotels that are using it. She has 3 employees. And now people see that she picks areas where there are hotels that want to have their clothes washed, and they want to invest in her. So individual investors want to invest. Crowdfunding, you have an idea for a cool new toy, You can put it out there and see if people will buy it in advance. Family offices are wealthy people that would invest in your idea. Corporations, which I have sold many of my ideas to, will invest. Government has grant and loan programs. And then there are foundations like Bill Gates, the founder of Microsoft, that they invest in new ideas that are going to help with the things they're trying to tackle on a global basis. Here are things that you want to consider if you're talking to investors. 10 criteria when looking for investors. One is they have to know it's like buying a lottery ticket. You're going to lose your money. So investors look at that it has to be a big idea. So if you're raising money, a lot of money, more than just the 100 dong, you would have to go and convince them that this thing could be so big, it would be like owning Vin Group when it got started. You have to show them that you have a good business model. It's going to help make money and maybe even give them money. So they might get a percentage of the profits, that it's scalable, that the people know what they're talking about, that there is the potential, like my student did, at selling their business to somebody else, and that what you're offering is unique. It doesn't mean it has to be the only one, but there are not that many competitors. And they look at your financials and they want to see, do you really understand financially the numbers and what it's going to take to make it? Well, that is the end of our class today. And I'm glad to answer any questions that any of you might have. But I hope you enjoyed our very first class today. So any questions you have, I'm opening to answering them. I see someone wrote here, need a monopoly and competition restricts monopoly since all other companies will be copying you left and right. Somebody wrote that so smart and so true. That and the reason I say that's so smart, you wrote here, competition is generally not good. If you're looking for a bigger profit, then you need a monopoly, and monopolies, of course, are illegal. Competition generally restricts that, so people are copying you left and right. So the reason I say that's very interesting comment is because there are venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, which is the capital of venture capital in the world, in the United States and California. And there are investors who care about patents and trademarks and those things. And there are others who say, what's the point of a patent when somebody's going to copy you anyway? And they'll just reverse engineer it. So most VCs and most successful entrepreneurs will say, just get it started and go. That's all matters, is just get it started and try to be as successful as you can be and don't worry about it. Now, there are, of course, issues. If somebody else gets a patent, they can try to stop you. But if you can show that you didn't really copy their patent, and by the way, patent lawsuits take years and years to happen. Any lawsuit takes 2 years until it actually gets to court. So every day you're 2 years out, and most people settle the cases, and most people just fork over a percentage of the profits, and that's the end of the story. But that's a good point. Anybody else? Any questions at all before I let you all go and look forward to seeing you next Sunday? Because next Sunday, what we're going to start doing is I want you, and I'll send something out. I want all of you to think about an idea that you want to start, and we're going to talk about how to evaluate ideas. Oh, I see someone wrote, can I know if I have a great business idea, but when I do it, it's success, but it will have people copy my idea, what should I do? It's really impossible to stop anybody from copying your idea. Really is. You know, Starbucks was around for a number of years before it really took off. And I'm forgetting the gentleman's name who bought it. But once Starbucks showed what they could do, everybody pretty much copied that model. And Starbucks, over time, lost its lead and other people just duplicated it. Some people can't duplicate as well as others. When Steve Jobs created the iPad, there were about 30 knockoff iPads at that time. But the quality of Microsoft's was so good that they can last 5 to 10 years. I mean, Apple's product is so good, it can last 5 to 10 years. So it's not a matter of just copying an idea. You have to be able to execute it well. So just because somebody steals your idea doesn't mean they can do it as well as you do it. Any other comments? I hope you all enjoyed the first class, and I'm looking forward to seeing you all next week. Okay. See you all next week. Have a great day. And if you have any questions, bring them to class.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, teacher.
Bye, guys.